Right, let's just get into this. So it's 2020, the year of things not going the way we planned. Like, for instance, I planned to start an art channel, and then instead there was a plague, and my children were home from school, and I was suddenly going mad, and you know, you know, life just didn't go the way it was planned, okay? So when I decided to get back into art, I thought, okay, well, I will start back with the original challenge I gave myself when I decided I was going to start improving my drawing. And that was the alphabet challenge, which I picked up from Rin, Drawing with Waffles. She had done her favorite character beginning with each letter of the alphabet. And I thought, hey, that seems like a good idea. In my original series, I started with Alice. I do like this Alice. I enjoy the fact that she is sort of older and more rough and tumble. And I do actually really like the Cheshire Cat in the A. But aside from that, oh goodness, I mean, that face is janky, so janky. And I like, words fail me. So comparing that with my new Alice, it's just leaps and bounds better, I think. I drew her younger. I drew her more classic. But the entire scene, she's interacting with the rabbit. There's a little bit of a background. And just in general, I feel like I am much better at dealing with the human form and what it really looks like than I was about a year ago when I drew my original Alice. So for B, I did Buffy originally, and I stuck with Buffy again this year. I do like my old Buffy sitting up there on her B. She's very classic, very 90s looking. But again, if you look at her, you can see there's some definite issues. Like, where is her head connecting to her neck? I don't know. So my new Buffy, I didn't draw her face. I don't know if I was being a coward or what, but she's in Sunnydale Cemetery, and honestly, I'm not going to lie, my favorite part of this is the tombstones, which are like Summers and Harris and Rosenberg and Giles, because, her biggest, whatever, I don't know, I was getting real meta. Buffy, all her friends die. I don't know, it's 2020. We're all dark now. Then we come to C, Catwoman. I do adore Catwoman. I love her so much. When I originally did Catwoman, I decided that I wanted to draw a less sexy Catwoman, let's say. So I looked up cats in ridiculous poses, and I tried to mimic one of those for Catwoman. And I drew her, and I didn't do a terrible job replicating the cat pose. It's just really hard to draw Catwoman in any way that doesn't look sexy. So, yeah. So I did Catwoman again for my secondary challenge, and I think not only this time did I succeed in making her at least a little less sexy by basically covering her whole body. I like the composition as a whole. For D, I did Daria. And I honestly, I'm not going to lie, I feel like I really let myself down on this one. Daria is already a cartoon, so it felt a little cheaty to begin with. I don't know. I don't know. I think I was having a hard day that day. Which is why this is such a massive contrast. D, we switched to Deadpool this year, and oh boy, this is probably one of my favorite drawings that I did in this alphabet series. For one thing, it's a man. I draw so few men. So the fact that I went ahead and drew a man I was really pleased with myself. And then the second, the whole Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, Deadpool, Wolverine meta joke thing that's going on, and the sexiest man alive. I just was so pleased with myself that I thought to have him hold a tiny stuffed Wolverine. So my favorite character starting with E is Eve. I love Eve. I think she's a fascinating character. I think she takes a lot of shit historically when she really shouldn't. So I don't hate my original drawing of Eve. I like the way I use the E. I like the snake. But again, it's really easy to see that I needed some practice with human form. Fast forward to now, and again, like, I don't know. I feel like 2 in a row right here. I just really impressed myself, and I was super happy with the work that I had done. I'm pleased with the perspective, that forced perspective of looking down on her from above. The snake spelling out her name, like her picking the apple. It's an action. So I just really like this one, okay? Also, I'm finally learning to draw textured hair, which, I don't know, hair is hard for me. I don't know if it's hard for other people who are learning art, or if, like, hair is super easy for them and noses are, like, the thing that gets them down. But hair is so difficult. And so I was just really pleased with myself that I got something that kind of looks successfully like textured hair. A year ago for F, I did Freya. And I don't hate her, except for her face, which, again, something about the janky, like, cheeks. I don't know what I'm doing there. But I like her. I like her fine, but she's not really my favorite character who begins with an F. So when I went forward in time, the first thing I tried to draw was Felicity Smoke. Yeah, sometimes bad art happens. Felicity is just so painful. I was trying to get her to look like she was looking at a computer screen, but instead I just completely messed it up. And when you look in her eyes, you can tell she's judging me. So I redid it. And instead I did Froppy from My Hero Academia. And I mean, she's a cartoon, so I was starting at an advantage, but she's super cute. I like her. Last year I did Glinda for G, and I do love the character of Glinda, but I think one of the reasons she was easier for me to draw is because Glinda lends herself to sort of that Disney-esque happy princess vibe, and I got started drawing by copying Disney art, so that sort of felt more natural to me. So coming forward in time, I decided to try Gandalf, another dude. There's something janky going on with his hip over here, but aside from that, I was actually really pleased with how he turned out. Like, facial hair, he looks tired, which, you know, if you were in charge of that much, you'd be tired too. Now, here we come to Hermione. I love Hermione. Hermione is me made in literature. I was the incredibly dorky, nerdy girl in school. But I did her so wrong when I originally drew her. I love the layout. I love the columns. She's sitting on the bench. She's got her broom on one side and the books on the other. I love the layout of the H. I love her sitting there. But, like, what is with her feet? What are they? Does she have jelly beans on the end of her legs? And clearly I had not practiced the perspective of someone looking down. And also, you'll notice that I drew her as a darker skinned character, but clearly didn't know what I was doing with the hair. Like, I just did her so wrong. So moving forward in time, I really wanted to draw Hermione again because I felt like I hadn't done her justice last time. But J.K. Rowling has been in the news, and I don't support her stances on certain things. So I decided to draw Hermione like this. This is my new Hermione, and I have to say, honestly, out of the entire alphabet challenge, I think she's probably my favorite. Not only did I do a much better job with a character looking down, in general, it's just leaps and bounds better, but I love her holding the trans flag. And, yeah, I love reclaiming a character from something that it may have been associated with that you don't agree with. Back to the lighthearted. A year ago, I did Indiana Jones as my I character, and I did a gender switch for her because I thought, why not? I like Indiana Jones, but I don't like all the misogyny associated with it. And I love the scene where he tries to quick fake out and put the bag of sand on instead of the golden idol. So I thought this was super cute. I didn't hate that one. But moving forward, I didn't really want to draw Indiana again, and I felt like I needed to try something else. So I moved on to Isis. And I really like how this turned out. I wish I'd had wider paper so that I could do the full spread of her wings, because that's the one thing that's really wrecking this drawing for me is, like, the wingspan should be more majestic. But I love how the lettering of her name turned out in particular. Like, that's such a small thing, but it kind of does actually look like Jules. So for Jay, I did Jessica Rabbit. I guess because I was running out of creativity at that point. She's definitely not my favorite character. My favorite character that starts with J is Jo March. I love Jo March. As a character, I really related to her. Don't look at the bottom. I messed up her name. But the rest of her, I really like. I referenced actual fashions from the appropriate time period. And she's sitting there reading a book. And, you know, my powerful literary women who are into books just really resonate with me. So this is a picture because I couldn't find the original image to show during my flip through. But for Kay, I did Kara Thrace. I was proud of myself at the time because this was a difficult position for me to draw with the one foot sticking out in front. But I clearly did not get the foreshortening in the forced perspective. Like, that foot should be so much bigger, taking up more of the frame. And again, like, oh God, I'm so bad with the faces. It's so terrible. It's terrible to look back at your old art. So for Kay this time, I did Kaylee from Firefly. I love her. I didn't do her justice, I don't think. And also, guys, I forgot to color the thing she's working on. I don't know why. Please forgive me. For Elle, I did Leia. I am fascinated by the sort of canon of Leia between the end of The Return of the Jedi and then the next time we see her in the movies. That Leia is just magical to me, so I drew her. And I don't know why I didn't want to draw her again. I guess part of it was that I just recently seen all the new Star Wars movies. I'd watched them with my kids, and I couldn't get the General Organa out of my head, and I didn't want to draw her. So instead, I used this as a chance to shoehorn in one of my other favorite characters, Stitch, by drawing Lilo, who's not Stitch, but, you know, they're kind of a pair. And she turned out fine. Like, there's nothing I particularly adore about her, but I don't hate it either. That's fine. For M, a year ago, I did Maleficent, and I don't feel particularly strongly about it one way or the other, except that I do like the way I laid the letter out on the page as light coming in from the door. And I like the isolation and loneliness it implies for her character. But I like this year's M with Mary Poppins so much more. I don't know if it was because of everything that was going on or just a reality of how I've always felt about Mary Poppins, but the fact that she's an immortal and that she will watch the children that she loves and cares for grow old and eventually pass on has always just really felt profoundly tragic to me. So I chose to draw the sad side of Mary Poppins. So for N, a year ago, I drew Nymphadora Tonks, and I'll be real, like, she's adorable. She's great. I love her. I love the way I drew the cloud and behind her, like, Nymphadora, she's great. Why did she have to die in the books? But so this year, I was just feeling super salty at the world at that point, and I'd recently buzzed my hair, and my friends and I like to say that I was Negasonic fully grown warhead, so I just went ahead and drew her for N. For O, last year I drew October Day, who's a Shauna McGuire character, and I love those books. She's a half-elf, and her magic spells of grass and blood, so that's what's with the sort of implied O that's circling around her. The thing that I thought that I did well with October was some of the shading. Like, I felt like I was starting to really get a handle on where light and shadow went on the face, but then I completely messed up the shading on her cheek. It's just muddy and terrible, and I don't know. It looks like she's been punched. So completely accidentally, I also did sort of a portrait for O again this year. And I chose to draw Ophelia. I used to dislike Ophelia because I thought she was a weak character. But then I got older and understood Shakespeare better and realized that she'd walked into a throne room with a handful of flowers and read the most powerful people in the land for filth, and that seemed pretty badass to me. I feel like this 3/4 profile, you can see the progress so distinctly from October, but you also like can really see how far I have to go. Like, why is so much of her forehead missing? Where did it go? And I have the exact same terrible harsh lining on her. For P, I did Puff the Magic Dragon in Winnie the Pooh. And that's really all I need to say about that. I loved that drawing. They were cartoon characters, so I don't know that I really did an amazing job with it, but I loved it, and I'm not going to apologize for it. This year I did Parker. Again, working with some forced perspective. If you haven't watched Leverage, go watch it. That's all I got to say about that. For Q, I did the Queen of Hearts. I really love her. I'm fascinated with her as a character, and I do like some of the things that happened in this drawing. I thought some of the things turned out really well. I liked the outfit that I gave her. I enjoyed the idea of the heart-shaped mask. I really liked the rosebush Q. So I did the Queen of Hearts again for this year. This year I guess I just went straight for what I believe in my heart of hearts to be true, which is that the Queen of Hearts is a dominatrix. For R, I did River Tam. I was really pleased with this drawing at the time. It was one of the more difficult poses that I drew that year, and I didn't completely muck up the shading of her face, important to me. And I really liked the space scene that I did behind, and also the R with the paneling and everything like Serenity. And she's playing with Wash's dinosaurs, which I thought was really sweet. If you just had to choose between R's, I don't think you would be able to tell that I've made any progress. I went with Rosie the Riveter, and I guess I don't hate her. She's fine, but I don't think she really shows a huge improvement over River. Like, her face is a little bit more correct in terms of 3Ds, but let's just go on to S. Okay, this one I have to tell you about. I was really disappointed with myself when I got to S last year. Shuri is one of my favorite characters. I love her plot arc in Black Panther. Like in the comics, she becomes the Black Panther at one point. She becomes the defender of her nation. She is badass. She's amazing. She's brilliant. I love her. I think she's incredible. And I just felt like I did her such a disservice. Like, her body looks weird and her face, it's just, everything is terrible. I'm sorry, Shuri. So I had to try again. I'm so much happier with this one. And I have to say that just S alone, I think, is probably the biggest improvement between one year and the next. I'm happier with her body. I'm happier with the background. I think it may be the best shading I did on any of the faces this time around. I love her. Last year, I did Tinkerbell for T, and I actually really liked it. Don't get me wrong, but I was bored with Tinkerbell, and I was bored with drawing women. So this year, it took me a long time to remember this, but the 10th Doctor is an option for T. So I went with that because, boy, do I love me some David Tennant. I'm happy with him. I mean, come on, look at him. How can you not be happy with the Doctor? Ursula. I decided to imagine if Ursula had been an octopus that lived in a happy setting instead of a dark setting, since octopuses can color camouflage. And I drew her as, a happy fairy tale character instead of, a dark, evil sea witch. And I really like the way she turned out. Much like with Tinkerbell, it's not that I didn't like the way she turned out, but I wanted to do something different for you this year. So this is Undine. And I do like this drawing. I feel like I played a little bit more with otherworldliness in a way that I never did last year. But, whatever. Let's move on. For V, I did Valkyrie. And while I love the Valkyrie character in the Thor movies, I think my problem with faces really shows through again here. This year, I decided to go with a more Norse-looking Valkyrie. And I have to say, I'm just really pleased again with the improvement here. The horse looks more like a horse. The Valkyrie looks more like a woman. Like, look, I actually did shading on the face. It's amazing. And I drew her carrying a dying warrior back to Valhalla, and I thought that that was a really nice addition to the piece. Willow Rosenberg is my favorite fictional character starting with W. I love everything about her, and I chose to draw her specifically as the 3-in-1. Willow sort of passes through 3 stages, and while they're not the traditional 3 stages of the goddess, she definitely has the innocent, the corrupted, and then the wiser phase. So I drew her in those 3 stages. That's about the only thing I'm proud of in this drawing. I feel like I did some things well. I think I picked the color scheme well. But aside from that, they don't look like they're the same character. No. And okay, look at this. I drew what probably were my best hands of last year, but then I felt like she needed like lightning that she was throwing, so I covered it up. I don't know. Why did I do that? So this year, I decided to double down on doing something terrible for W. I don't know. I guess it's a cursed letter for me. This is my niece, Samantha, who I call the Wobbegong, which is why she's for W. I need to tell you, this child in life is actually adorable. She is one of the most beautiful children you will ever see. So the fact that I managed to draw something so incredibly terrifying when I was working off of a reference picture of her probably lets you know how far I have to go with my art. For X, I went with Weapon X. Love her. She's great. She's tracking down Wolverine. She's got one of his cheroots, and she's making a face of disgust. But this year, I decided to draw Huxiketl for my X, and she is, God, I just love her. I love her. Huxiketl is a Aztec goddess who was for spring and flowers and fertility. And so I took some traditional Mexican garb and drew her as a young maiden ready to go dance in the spring. And oh my goodness, I don't often just really love my art, but this one is beautiful and I love looking at it. For why last year I did Baba Yaga, and this, I love this one. I don't know if it's my favorite from last year, but I do love this one. I decided to draw the Yaga before she was a Baba. So she's flying in her mortal and pestle. She's not that old. She's got her chicken-legged house following behind her. I love her feet because I hadn't drawn feet before. I love her. I think she's great. I think she's wonderful. And yet for some reason, when I went to do Y this year, I was so tired and so worn that I chose Yzma. Like, Yzma? I don't even like the Emperor's New Groove that much. I mean, I do like Yzma and Kronk, don't get me wrong, but she's nowhere near my favorite character. But I actually think Y is a really good example of how much you are invested in what you're doing can really impact your art. Like, skill-wise, I think Yzma is probably better than Baba Yaga. But if you're just looking at the life in the piece, you can just tell that I was way more into drawing Baba Yaga than I was into drawing Yzma. And then we come to Z. And last year I was so tired that by the time I got to Z, I drew myself as a zombie. So this is Zombie Jessica. And by the time I got to Z this year, again, I was so tired. I was like, yeah, sorry, y'all, I'm out. I'm not doing this. I'm cutting it short. I'm stopping at Y. Looking back from A to X, which was one of my best of this year, I think it's pretty clear how far I've come. All you have to do is look at that crazy Alice face, which doesn't actually make any anatomical sense. And then look at that. She's beautiful. Look at her. I'm really pleased with my progress, and I'm grateful that life has afforded me the opportunity to explore art and try and improve in this way. Thank you for watching. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at Jaja Draws or on Facebook at Jaja. I hope your 2020 has gone more to plan than mine did. Maybe 2021 will be better.